Probably about 13, and I took my first vacation out of Detroit with my mom to Virginia, to Tappahannock, Virginia, where she grew up. And I was sitting on my aunt's porch, and I was a big fan of the blues because my sister played a lot of blues when I was young, and I listened to a lot of blues, and I really started getting into harmonica. And I was really like digging that, you know. So I sat on my aunt's porch. Oh man, it must have been about 2 weeks, and it took me to learn how to play the harmonica, and that was my first love for music. After that, I kind of knew that I wanted to play music. You know, music was always in the family because there was the baby grand when you came in was the piano that was in the house when I was born, and my sister and my brother took piano lessons, but I guess it didn't stick with them. But I remember after the harmonica, I was really into basketball, but at that young age, I always wanted a pogo stick for some reason. I just wanted to bounce around. So I remember me and my brother Bubs went to Federal department store. Federal's was on 8 Mile in DeQuinta with my dad. My dad was from the Virgin Islands. He had an accent, and he loved music too. So I listened to a lot of island music as well as classical, blues, soul, just a number of different genres of music. And I was pulling, Dad, come on, I want to show you the pogo stick. He's like, no, I'm not buying a pogo stick. My brother pulled on him and said, Dad, I'm going to take you over to the music department and show you this bass guitar. He got the bass guitar that day. So it's where music really continued in the house. Because once he started playing bass, it was like, okay, there's music in the house still. And my brothers and sisters were kind of growing out of the piano, and the piano was just sitting there. Well, my mom asked me to take piano lessons, and I don't know, Mom. You know, she took me to this old lady on 6 Mile, and she was across the street from the doctor's office. It was right at 6 Mile in Hamilton. It was beautiful over there then. And this old woman, she was a white woman, and she lived right on Hamilton and 6 Mile. She lived right on 6 Mile. Her house was beautiful. The doctor's office was nice. That whole area was amazing. I always remember her front door had the oval door, and the house was just, I mean, there's nothing there right now. But her house was beautiful, and I hated piano lessons with her. So I didn't do it. I quit. And then later, my friend Billy Parker, who lived down the street, he started taking guitar lessons, and he never really took a lesson. He just learned how to play guitar. He was left-handed. We used to go to concerts and sneak into Masonic Temple to see, you know, anywhere from Boy to Iggy Pop to Buddy Miles, B.B. King, Ted Nugent. We saw everything. We saw so much good music. We used to sneak into the concert. He was taking guitar lessons at Grinnell Brothers on Woodward, and I remember going there one day because we were going there to steal pedals because he wanted to get some crazy effects. So we were like, okay, these pedals are like this size, so we would go in the store, you know, we come out with the pedal on. We'd go home, plug the pedal. I was like, I'm not stealing a pedal today. I'm like, no, because I'd been with him, and we had got caught at Spartan Atlantic, another store, where he put a big gas car up on his coat, and they caught us. And I told him, I said, it's too big, man, don't try to steal that. He was working on getting the pedals, and I walked around, and I looked in the back, and I saw piano lessons. So I said, how much are piano lessons? It was like $7 a lesson. Okay. I had a few dollars. I was like, I'm going to start taking piano lessons. And my mom was happy about that. And the lady was probably about 86. And I didn't know who I was going to get when I came up. It was like this little old lady. I was like, oh, shit. But she was really good, you know, and she taught me the basics of everything that I needed to know. I went home and studied every day, and that's really how from that point on, I was like, okay, I like this. When I was 18, I was already in some music programs in school. It was my last year, so I decided to go to college and study music. So I went to Wayne Community College, I went to Oakland Community College, and I finally went to Oakland University, where I met Harold McKinney, and Sam Sanders was teaching there, and Charles Bowles was one of my teachers there, and Mr. Allen, who's a great string arranger. I wasn't there long, you know. I was probably only there one semester as a sophomore. And then my friend, one of my best friends, Gary Green, told me that his brother, Bobby Green, needed a keyboard player for their group, the Enchantments. So that's where I started playing professionally. That was in 78 maybe. I loved jazz, and I loved piano, and I loved funk, and I was really getting into hip hop because that was a new thing coming in, and then I still loved classical because I was studying classical, and I loved reggae music and soca and calypso because my dad played those things, and I was playing in a band with my friend Ross Kente all the time I was going through college and school. I was really kind of growing, and it was in a simple way, you know, because most of the music was simple. I think Enchantment was the biggest challenge because I really wasn't playing. I went from playing piano to straight having to play synthesizer. Because I didn't, I had a synthesizer. I had a little Moog that I bought on layaway from a music store that was on 8 Mile called Gasabi. Back then it was amazing that you can learn to create sound from a synthesizer because there was no patches. You just had to create the sound yourself and tweak it and remember it. And it was only monophonic in those days. There was no polyphonic synthesizers. My first polyphonic synthesizer was also a Moog, and it was the first polyphonic synthesizer that they made. It was cheap and it was horrible. When they started making synthesizers and keyboards with polyphony, it was amazing to me. I mean, kids that grew up in the 80s and 90s were probably, it wasn't probably a big deal because they never knew what it was like not to have that. And Enchantment was a cool gig for me to start to learn because I only had been playing 2 years, and then like I was a year really studying and going through college, and it was about 3 years because I was a year with Miss Whitman and then another year in high school, and then the next year was in college, and then I didn't even finish college before I went right on tour with them. And they had me playing my little Moog that I had bought. It was a monophonic Moog and a string ensemble. And the string ensemble was an ARP string ensemble, and it was beautiful in theory. In real life, it was a piece of crap because it was old, and the volume was broken. They never repaired it. And if I knew the things that I knew now, I could have just got the silicone spray and sprayed the pots, and it probably wouldn't have. It went from 5 to 100 when you just moved it a little bit. So, and strings, so you're playing strings for these guys who are a doo-wop group, and strings have to be beautiful, and have to. And another thing that I didn't know that nobody told me was, invest in a volume pedal. Then you could put it on 10, put it on 100, and then have a volume pedal. I didn't know any of these things. So, but it taught me how to learn how to do things without the tools that I really needed, because I used to get really bad looks, and you know, after the show, you know, what's wrong with that string? I said, why was it so loud? Because when strings are loud, they cut through everything. And it taught me how to study and learn a show in its entirety, and that was big because I think that taught me a lot about the live aspect of music. You know, how to learn a song from the beginning to the end every intricate part, and then how to learn a song within a show, to learn all the songs from beginning to end. I left Enchantment, and I kind of, around that time, I also played with RJ's Latest Arrival, and I did a couple gigs with the Dramatics, and I met George Clinton in Parliament Funkadelic in the 80s. So from that time that I was with Enchantment and the time that I met Parliament Funkadelic, I was working at Incognito in Royal Oak at the store, and I was a salesperson. I was always a salesperson when I was a kid. My mom used to work at J.L. Hudson, so I was always a salesperson. So I always worked in clothing and sales, which is why I probably like fashion so much with music. And I think, if you got funk, you got style. So I was buying drum machines all the time. I love electronic, so I was always buying drum machines and keyboards and recorders. So what was fascinating to me was that you can record all your instruments on a cassette or on a reel-to-reel and create your own demo without going to the studio and paying a lot of money. I was hung on the DIY. I'm a DIY kind of guy. I always have been. All my boys always they wanted to go to a big studio and spend money and get somebody to front them to go in there and do their projects. And I was like, no, I'm doing my projects at home. So at the time, I was in this house. I was in this room that we're in. It was basically gutted and cement. And before that, I was upstairs in the living room, and we were recording upstairs. And I had a 4-track, and all my friends would come over and record. And I met a lot of people. I met, Michael Clip Payne from Parliament Funkadelic. I met both George's sons, Trelude, and his son Daryl, which was really badass musicians. I had met Bernie Worrell. I had met Junie Morrison. I had met a lot of people. They were all here recording at United Sound, so I would be with my friends. Andre Fox was the driver, and he would drive them around. So I was meeting all these guys, and my dream was to be in that band. And that finally came to fruition when my girlfriend, who I was making demos for here, took the demo to George, and he liked it and asked me to come back to the studio, and I started making demos. And at that time, I was not anticipating that tour. So I started that tour, and it gave me the money to kind of build. So I put everything in the basement. While I was doing that, my time off, I'm here recording, and these kids came by because it's loud and you can hear out the window, and they were always asking me who was making the music, and if it's you, then can you help us make some music because we rap. So I thought, this is cool. I got kids in my neighborhood that might be talented. I'm going to check them out. So I checked them out, and they come by, and they were basically Slum Village and about 3 or 4 other kids. This kid, Larrick, his name was Cricket, was the one that brought everybody around. He was the one that first came by here by himself, just walking past the house. And when they brought Dilla by, they said that he can make beats, but he really was making his music on cassette, from cassette to cassette. So I basically showed him how to use the MPC. 10 years with Parliament Funkadelic. In the 5th year, I was kind of getting clean, and I was getting out of that. So it kind of made me do things differently. And that's when I left Parliament Funkadelic, because I kind of wanted to do things a little different. And I guess that's how about the time that I met Dilla and those kids. And he was just amazing, because he learned the MPC really fast. And he was diligent. He came down here as much. I have tons of records, because my brother and sisters had tons of records, and they were all here. And it was just an open market for listening, sampling, and learning, which is what it still is, as far as I'm concerned. I think it's interesting. I was talking to somebody the other day, and I was telling them, that I was listening to NPR and they were saying I'm an old man because I listen to NPR now. I don't really listen to too much public radio other than NPR anymore because I'm not inspired. And the stations that play music that I've heard before is cool, but it's still not inspiring me to want to listen. There's a lot of commercials and there's a lot of commercial music, and that's not making me happy. So most of the stations that I listen to now are basically internet, and I think there's some great music out here on the internet, amazing stuff that I hear all the time, innovative, where people are trying things because it's an open book for creativity. There's no rules anymore, which is beautiful, and nobody's worried about getting played on major radio that much anymore. And I think people are also happy with their status of getting some notoriety from areas like Twitter or wherever their social network is that doesn't involve in the past having your record played on major radio. So I think the future is bright. I always look toward the bright side of reality as opposed to what's wrong. I don't care about what's wrong so much. I know what's wrong. We know what's wrong. I want to have the conversation about what's possible to change and how we can move forward. I don't want to look back. I want to look forward. So I think looking forward, we have a lot of new things. And I think that I see music evolving into a new dimension because I think that radio has worked hard at keeping the dimension low, the vibrations low, the frequencies low to keep people's vibrations low, especially in urban areas, you know. Those low frequencies keep your vibrations low. So the music that I'm working on now is funk for me, but my side project is called The Digitarians, and it's more about the universe, the extraterrestrials, the connection that we have to the different planets and our history, and it's more cinematic in that the frequencies are higher and the vibrations are higher to lift the spirit so that we can possibly reach a higher dimension through music and let the music take us to a new dimension. We have music here for a reason, and we're not taking advantage of that because we don't realize how powerful music is, how it hits the chakras and changes the whole way that we do things. Our whole vibe changes, you know, and we need that right now. This old place that we've been in, I think we're about to be through with. And I think it's time for us to change and move to a higher frequency, higher levels of being. Believe in your dream and to never stop working towards your vision and your passion. I think if you have a true passion, then there's no reason to doubt that eventually you will be successful the more you work on your craft. Because we see results fast. As much as we practice and we cultivate and we keep writing and moving forward, the faster we keep seeing results. And they happen so fast. It's amazing. So if people have the faith and the vision that it's going to happen, if they see themselves where they want to be, whether it be in the studio, on stage, on the screen, wherever it is, that vision is what creates the possibility when you put it out into the universe.